Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we take your source material, the articles, the fan analysis, all of it, and distill it down into what you really need to know.
And today, we are wrestling with a big one.
A really big one. A marathon commitment. The sprawling 17-episode Thai BL series, Fourever You.
It's adapted from Hal's series novel, and this thing is just massive, a colossal 16-hour saga that premiered late 2024 and pretty much dominated the conversation through early 2025.
And the reason we're digging into this is because the show is, well, it's a fascinating paradox.
Right. Critics largely agreed it had these huge structural flaws, relying on cliches and exhausting runtime, but it became this massive fan phenomenon.
So our sources have given us the full map character breakdowns, episode analysis, the critical reception. It's a shortcut to understanding the magic, the fatigue, and the chemistry that just propelled this thing.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So we have to start with the couple that was really the foundation of the show, Terra and Hill.
Hmm.
And if you've seen any Thai BL, this whole setup felt, well, it felt almost comfortingly familiar.
Oh, completely. It's your quintessential university drama, just packed with generic romance tropes.
But the sources say it found its footing pretty quickly. It was saved by some lighthearted humor and genuinely amusing character banter.
And it looked great, very polished.
That familiarity was the hook. So let's talk about the characters. We have Terra, played by Earth.
He's our primary protagonist, the classic avoidant romantic type.
Right, a first-year vet student who chose a university that's like miles away from everything.
Specifically to escape memories of a past relationship. He's introverted, gets flustered really easily, and he spends most of the early episodes just running from any kind of confrontation.
Especially with his family, right, with their dessert shop.
Yeah, that whole dynamic. And then you have his counterpart, Hill, played by Pon. He's the total opposite, the persistent perfectionist.
He checks every single box. Charismatic medical student, student union president, captain of the basketball club.
Gets great grades. He's just the stabilizing force, the dream boyfriend who is super open with his affection.
So their dynamic starts out as this really sweet fairy tale romance.
Almost a lighthearted Romeo and Juliet. Two star-crossed ex-lovers trying to get past some old misunderstanding.
And the sources really highlighted the sincerity of their chemistry.
They did, pointing to these small, really endearing moments, like that scene where Hill plants this delicate, respectful kiss on Terra's hand. That was like the emotional peak for them early on.
Okay, but here's where the structural drag begins.
Yes.
The critical reviews pointed out pretty much immediately that their core plot, this simple reconciliation, was just too thin.
Way too thin to support the screen time it got. Their story arc took up nearly 12 episodes.
12.
12. And it made a lot of scenes feel incredibly repetitive, redundant even. And that's what really contributed to the overall length being so exhausting.
So the drag was built on Terra's core trait, just avoidance.
That's it, exactly. Look at the timeline from the source analysis. They run into each other in episode 1. By episodes 2 and 3, Hill is publicly posting pictures of their hands.
Okay, so things are moving.
You'd think by episode 4, they've already had their first mutual kiss and a confession, but then the narrative just stalls.
For 6 more episodes.
For 6 more episodes. It just stretches out the reconciliation by having Terra constantly retreat, overthink things, or just create small conflicts to avoid talking about what happened in high school.
So we had to wait until episode 10 for basic communication to finally happen.
Yep.
That is an immense amount of time just spinning wheels on a resolution the audience already saw coming from, like episode 4.
Absolutely. And that kind of drawn-out simplicity is what started the viewer fatigue. It was a signal that this 16-hour runtime was going to require some patience.
And that's exactly why the audience started shifting their focus, right? That vacuum opened the door for the other pair to just take over.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yes, is where it became a true phenomenon. The clear fan favorites, the characters who were driving all the online buzz, were North and Johan.
Without a doubt. So you have North, played by Bass. He's the lighthearted Resilient.
Yep.
An engineering student, Terra's dorm mate.
He's the goofy, optimistic one, juggling multiple part-time jobs, waiter, barista.
And for a good reason. He comes from a struggling single-parent household, and he genuinely needs that money for tuition.
And the actor, Bass, was just the MVP of the whole thing. The praise for him was unanimous, his comedic timing, his charisma.
He brought this grounded, lovable vulnerability to North that just made his struggles feel so real, in the middle of this otherwise fluffy campus drama.
Okay, so then you have his counterpart, Johan, played by Max Soki.
The burdened heir, wealthy medical student, and the ultimate sunder.
Cold on the outside, secretly warm on the inside.
Exactly. He started out as this rebel, but now he's laser focused on proving he can handle the family business. And their dynamic is that classic, hilarious goofball meets sunder thing that fans just eat up.
Plus, the writers gave them this huge emotional payoff with that late season reveal.
Oh, the big one. That Johan had secretly been in love with North for 3 whole years.
Watching him from afar since high school. Which, I mean, that reframes everything.
Yeah.
All their awkward early interactions suddenly seem profound. Maybe a little obsessive.
Definitely obsessive. But while their chemistry best and Maxke's chemistry was just undeniable, I mean, it was the engine of the show.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the controversy. The sources are very clear on this.
Right.
Johan is described, without reservation, as a walking red flag.
Wow, okay.
A manipulative control freak. He strategically uses his wealth to basically regulate North's behavior and strip away his financial autonomy.
That is a harsh label, but the sources justify it with specific examples.
Very specific. Johan forces North into debt after a drunken fight in episodes 6 and 7. Then he pressures North to quit the jobs he desperately needs.
And the final move? He buys the actual business where North works.
Right, so he literally controls North's employment. I mean, how did the show get the audience to accept that kind of behavior?
It's all about the genre and the framing. The show was incredibly genre-savvy. It gave the fans exactly what they wanted. Phenomenal chemistry, and the sort of optical illusion of romance overriding real conflict.
The physical affection was very generous, and they used all these BL-friendly visuals that kind of short-circuited critical thinking.
Right, like that moment Johan grabs North's tie to pull him in for a kiss.
Yeah.
That kind of high-impact visual plus their chemistry made people willing to forgive or maybe even romanticize the manipulation.
So the attraction was so powerful it justified the problematic core of the relationship.
In a narrative sense, yeah. And their commitment arc really solidified with a moment of huge cultural significance within BL.
The gear.
The engineering gear.
Right.
Before Johan goes on a business trip, North gives it to him. And for anyone who doesn't know, the gear isn't just an object.
No, it represents his heart, his entire self. It's a promise.
Yeah.
By giving it up, North was placing all of his trust in Johan.
And the payoff was perfectly designed for fan satisfaction. In episode 15, Johan officially asks North to be his boyfriend.
And then in the finale, he symbolically rewrites their whole debt-based dynamic by gifting North his mother's ring, a treasured family heirloom.
A move that basically says, the financial leverage is gone, this is about family and devotion now.
Exactly.
So if we connect all this to the bigger picture, the series really suffered from that structural imbalance. 16 hours.
It was a huge commitment, and the critics were unified on this. The runtime was just too long for these straightforward plots. The narrative felt, and I'm quoting here, stretched too thin.
They were just relying on repetitive conversations and unnecessary flashbacks to stall for time.
It really felt like they were scraping the bottom of the barrel for conflict just to pad out the episodes. I mean, the hours of drama over Johan's business trip.
That was pure filler. Total filler. It definitely accelerated that viewer fatigue. It's honestly baffling that it took so long for either couple to just define their relationship.
And that structural problem created another weird issue for the audience. The whole cut versus uncut version controversy.
Oh yeah, this is so important for anyone trying to watch it now.
If you watch the free version on YouTube, you were missing huge pieces of emotional context.
Fans were adamant you had to watch the WeTV uncut version because the free edits weren't just cutting out, graphic content. They were removing critical scenes.
Tender confessions, key dialogue, and this is the big one. The official boyfriend proposal in episode 15 was just gone.
Which created genuine narrative incoherence. You could watch an episode and feel like the couples hadn't earned their development at all.
Because of the dialogue that got them there was literally missing. It felt like a choice designed to push people to the paid platform to get the complete story.
But, okay, despite all these flaws, the structural drag, the cliches, the editing issues, the show never became unwatchable.
No, it didn't. Its salvation was that constant stream of playful humor, those really endearing romantic moments, and a sweet, sentimental finale.
It tied everything up positively. Concluded the main pair's stories with these heartwarming family scenes.
And speaking of that finale, Season 1, which ended in January 2025, it did provide satisfying closure for them. Hill gave Terra his grandmother's necklace.
And Johan gave North his mother's ring. And Terra even started to reconcile with his family.
Right, but the narrative focus is about to shift dramatically.
The original premise had 4 couples, which means the other storylines that were completely sidelined for 16 hours are now the entire focus of the sequel.
Part 2 is called Beside the Sky, and it premiered in December 2025. And it's structured very differently. It's a planned 24-episode run, and it dedicates a much more balanced 8 episodes to each of the 3 remaining couples.
This is a massive pivot. After 16 hours of mostly light fluff, the sources suggest we're moving into much heavier territory.
Oh, yeah. The new main couple is Tonfa and Typhoon, and their story demands some real emotional labor from the viewer.
So Tansa is the mentoring artist. He's described as a broody softy who's masking past trauma and loneliness.
And then there's Typhoon, the abandoned soul. He's labeled as dramatic sunshine, but he's harboring this intense shared trauma. He has a deep-seated fear of darkness and thunder that's linked to childhood neglect.
Those are really weighty themes. It sounds like part 2 is way less interested in university cuteness and more about mature emotional recovery.
And the season 1 cliffhanger set that tone perfectly. In the final moments, Tonfa, who knows all about Typhoon's fears, actively avoids picking him up when he's stranded in a rainstorm.
So Hill had to step in instead.
Exactly. That scene basically confirmed that part 2 is going to explore a heartbreaking and complex backstory. No more simple misunderstandings. This is real conflict.
And just to round out the ensemble, the third pairing is Arthit and Deotak.
Arthit is the athletic playmate, another brooder hiding pain behind an arrogant facade driven by his mother's death. And Deotak is the quiet observer who's dealing with some unfinished business from his past.
This raises an important question.
So, if we boil it all down, the essence of the Fourever You deep dive is this. It's a show that lacks originality and suffers from immense structural drag.
Across 16 hours, yeah. Yet it perfectly understood fan service, and it harnessed the powerful, just undeniable breakout chemistry between the actors Maxky and Bass.
And that's the key takeaway here. The shortcut knowledge is understanding that in this kind of genre content, an exceptional performance like Bass's comedic timing and vulnerability can elevate a series way past its narrative flaws.
It can even transform a really problematic relationship, one that involves financial control, into a total fan obsession.
Right. And considering Johan's manipulative behavior, what does it say about the modern appeal of the opposites attract trope when a storyline involving financial coercion is reframed through romance and chemistry as a sign of passionate, if highly problematic, commitment?
That's something for you to mull over until our next deep dive.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next one.